Welcome to Member 365's webinar on directory, enhance connections, and collaboration. I'm your host, Christine Bundy, the Customer Success Manager. And fun fact is I love questions. So if you have any questions at any time, please do not hesitate to put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. So if you just go to the bottom, there's Q&A section. So put all questions that you have throughout the presentation in there because everyone has been muted and their cameras are off. Today's session is being recorded, so you will get a copy of it afterwards. It also will be posted on our YouTube channel for access in the future. For today, we're going to first go over a few definitions. Then we're going to do the directory setup. We're going to then look at what a directory looks like to a member in the member portal. And then we're going to actually see what it looks like on the website. So if you embed it on the website, what that looks like. Then we'll go through some best practices. And then we'll get into questions. So again, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. I love questions. If you think about them as we're going, I can sometimes answer them as we go as well. So first is organization directory. What is an organization directory? Because there's two. There's organization and membership. An organization directory is a listing of your organizations. So if you have organization or group memberships, you can do this. This is not for individual memberships. This is only for if you have a group membership that you can do this. Otherwise, you can do an individual membership. And an individual directory is like a members directory. So it's where you can list individuals, not the organization, just the individuals that are associated. Most times it's for a member directory. You also can do like board directories, sponsor directories, things along those lines, mentorship directories, anything along those lines are things that you can do within our system. Okay, so let's then jump over to Member 365 and we'll go through the setup of a directory. So let's pull that up. All right, so I'm logged in to my Member 365 admin CRM. And from the admin dashboard, I'm going to go up to modules and I'm going to go to directory. Now, if you do not see this, it means you do not have permissions to see this. So go talk to your admin manager to be granted permissions as an administrator to have access to the directory if it's one of your responsibilities. If not, you have to find somebody who has that access to make these modifications. So if I'm going to create one from scratch, you would come here and create the directory. Otherwise, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to manage my directories because I already have a few in here and we're just going to go through those setups to help you with yours. So again, directory, manage. All right, and so the first one that we're going to go through is an individual. Now the setups are similar. There's only a couple modifications, so I'll go through both of them and just kind of show you the difference. And it's basically just a toggle for the directory versus members. So for the members, you're first going to give it a name. Then you're going to come in and select what membership categories and or contact demographics you want. So this is where I'm saying you can create a member directory, but you can also create a board directory or a speakers directory for events or sponsors or mentors. And if they have either a membership or a contact demographic, you can create a directory based off of that. The contact demographics are added manually by an administrator, whereas the membership directory is automatic based off of people applying and being approved for membership. So you'd simply come in here, select the ones that apply, and then go down and say where you want it displayed. Do you want it displayed publicly on the website, on your website, or just in the member portal? You would select the options you wanted. If you had a form that you wanted to attach to the directory, that you could also attach to the membership application, and I highly recommend you do this if you want more options to filter off of. So you can create additional questions such as specialties or maybe where they're located geographically. Other things that you can also think about is if there's specializations. So if you are a nursing association or if you are a practitioner, like what are their specialties that they do? Those are things that you can list in here. Certification versus non-certifications, those also can be posted here as well in your form and then filtered later. And to create a directory form, it's also very easy. It's go up to your modules, go to forums, click on create and create a directory form. We will go through how to create forms later on in another webinar. So the format is if you want a member, so an individual directory, there's organization, and then the supplier. We're not going to touch supplier today. That is very specific. So the organization and the membership are the two that we're focusing on. Then you have the appearance. So when do you want people to appear in this directory? The most common is always appear. You do have the ability to say that they can opt into it, or they appear by default and have the ability to opt out. It's up to you on which settings you want, and also depends on your policies. So make sure that you look into those before you adjust these settings. Because I have a form, I definitely want this to show up in my membership application, because one of the best practices is keeping your data up to date, your directory up to date. And to do that, having it on the application can also mean that's on your renewals, which means that every year when they go through the renewal process, they're updating their directory information. They can also update it in the portal and adjust as needed there, but it also, when they're not logging in as often as you would like them to, when they go to renew, it is making sure that they update that information. You definitely want, if you do have a form and you want them to be, that information to be visible, you definitely want to have it clickable so they can click on it and then view any additional information other than just the basic contact details. And then you can say who can see this. So is it for only members, non-members, or members that who have a classification? So a contact demographic. I like to leave it all. Then we're going to go to our rules. Now, again, depending on your policies, depends on which ones you turn on. If you want to show lapsed members until they archive, you can do that. I always like to turn on that they can stay in this until they are within the grace period. If you have CE and your CE directory is related to this, you do have the option to include if they've incompleted or if they're within their grace period for their CE as well as their membership. I always like to make sure that my directory is searchable. So you definitely want to turn on the key searchable features, especially if you're using a form. I like to also combine my directory into one for the different membership categories. You may not want to do this. You may actually want to use your categories as a filter so people can determine what category they're in, as determines as to who they want to contact. It might be something you do first. Not many people want people identifying what category they're in. They just want a general. Again, depends on your policies, but something to be aware of. I always like to do the 2-grid option for individual directories. The business directory is a 1-grid, and I'll show you the difference in a minute. And then finally, I always put them in random order. And the reason for this is that right now everything's in alphabetical order. If this isn't turned on, it's going to go in alphabetical order, and it's always going to be in alphabetical order. So if I go into the directory, I'm always just going to pick the first person there. Typically, not that people will search a little bit if they search on their filters, but it's still going to be in alphabetical order. If I turn this on, it's randomly going to show someone different every time I go to that page, so that other people are getting notice. And it's not just anybody starting with the last name that starts with A. So something to keep in mind. I always love turning this on. Again, depends on your policy, so check those before changing settings. Now, because I have both on this setup page, I've said I want it displayed in public and in the portal. I have 2 tabs. I have my public directory and my portal directory. The settings in each of these are the same. It's just you might want to adjust depending on where they are. So I know for the public directory, I might not want my social media, but for the in portal, you may want to have that visible for members to connect that way. Again, it's completely up to you. These first ones are if you want to show the member status, if you want to be able to show an export of the directory, not a common use, but I know some associations require this. It might be something you only turn on in the portal, but not in the public. Then you have the ability to members to choose which is displayed. I always like to have this on. It's a kind of a best practice because Sometimes people don't want their mailing address showing, or sometimes they don't want their email showing or their phone number. So it's an option to have available, especially for organizations, but maybe they don't want that information visible. So allowing them to make those edits inside the member portal, and I will show you where, that is really important, giving them that security and privacy that they may need. Then you can also show which location, so where they're located based off of. And then specialization search, just please ignore it. This is a item that is not within, which actually will be removed. Then we have your social media links. Here you can add an image. I always recommend adding an image because it's just a generic. Lots of people use logos. You could use a silhouette. A silhouette automatically shows there, but this just kind of helps make it a little bit more pretty until people upload their images, which is another thing to encourage your members to do when they log in, is upload a profile image. Because when they do that, it will replace the default image within the directory. You can also add a little overview as to what this directory is, how it benefits them, anything kind of along those lines. All right, then you have your public access. So this is what you would use. This is the code that you would provide your web browser, or you would copy and paste into your web page under a code block. If you do need help with this, this is something that we can assist you. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and submit a ticket if you need help doing that. Finally, we have our field permissions, and this is where you determine what options are available to be shown, which ones are forced, and then which ones they can choose to edit. You have the options to either showing the business or residential address. Most people use business because you don't want to display residential. Again, it depends on your association. If you're a homeowner association, you might definitely want to put residential so people can connect and know where to look up someone if they need to go drop something off. But again, it completely depends. Here it's simple as selecting different options that you want or unselecting. I normally don't have member number showing, some do. You may or may not want your categories or title showing. Again, it's up to you as to which you want. If you have it set to force, means that it has to show their first and last name. They do not have an option to turn that off. If you turn force off, so if it's off here, they have the ability to not show that option. So it's on by default, but they can go in and adjust as needed. You can also then select specific information within the member portal and then not enabling certain items for the public website. Once you have everything done, make sure you save your work. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we also have a group membership category, and the main difference is just strictly what format you want it to appear in. So if you want it to appear in an organization format, or if you want it to appear in a member format. So it's just a matter of adjusting and then who is able to view that directory. All right, so we're going to actually pop over to the member portal and show you what these look like. So I'm actually just going to go up to the top and I'm going to go to the member portal. I have a membership on my contact record, so I will see it as a member. And when you log in here, the directory is at the top. It's typically the third option, again, depending on which you have available. And then you'll see all the different types of directories that are there. So we were playing around with the member directory. So here we can pull it up and we can see that it's in a 2-grid format. We have an image here that is the default, but as people fill it out, it will automatically fill in with their profile. We have it searched right now by the membership categories, what type, and then there's also additional filters from the form that are here that you can filter off of, and based off of these criteria, it will provide those individuals. So like for example, I was like, I want corporate and I want automotive. Nobody fits that filter, but you can adjust as needed. And so if I go in again, the one thing you're gonna notice, because we have it random, I can then readjust my search. You can search by individuals. You can also search by address or anything else within, or form questions within the search filter to bring them up. So I can bring up all the Foleys because we do have a few in this account. So it brings me up all the Foleys that are related. So when I want to, we'll also go and see the different types of directories. So this would be an organization directory. And so this is the difference. So this is a 1 grid versus the 2 grid. This does not have a default image. So this is just a standard silhouette that will appear. So this is why we recommend adding an image that can be replaced by the organization logo when it's on the organization record, or the individual contact. One thing I am going to point out, right here, you see the organization as multiple times. This is because in your settings on your membership category, you are allowing all employees to appear in the directory. If you are strictly using organization directories, or if you want to use organization directories, don't allow employees to appear. Otherwise, in the organization directory, it's going to appear multiple times. And that's why it's one of the things that's important when you're thinking about directories is, do you want to create a directory that includes employees, or do you just want to strictly do your organization and then the primary contact for a membership category or a membership directory? If anybody needs to adjust any of these items, they simply would go over to go to your account, and you go to your directory listings. So this is where you can go and edit any of the information for the different directories that you're associated to. So only the ones that you are attached to will appear here. They're at the top. You can select which one and what is appearing, and you can simply go down to the bottom and make those updates. So you can edit what you want visible versus not visible. And some of these options have a checkoff, and as you can see, some do not. So some are forced, some you cannot change, whereas other ones you can adjust to what you want visible. So you might not want the organization phone number visible. You only want to be reached by email, which is available up here. Once they've made those adjustments, they simply hit save, and it's automatically updated in the directory. All right, so that's what it looks like in the portal and how to make adjustments. These also adjustments apply to the directory in a website. So I'm going to go to our demo website here, and I just literally can click on directory, and this is going to show. So this is our member directory. So this is really good is if you are looking to promote certified members that have earned a certification that is required for them to get jobs. So advertising them on your public website is a huge benefit. You might also have a sponsor directory for everybody that sponsors your events, and having a little blurb about them. Anything along those lines are things that you can do, and you can embed a directory per page. Some people even use like a tab option. And then you have the ability to scroll through. They can go to the different pages and see what's going on that way. So as you can see here, this is what will appear, but as an image is added, it automatically updates that image from the profile. All right. One other thing you can notice is that this has the members information, but it's missing that other filter. So that is an option within the form directory to say where you want them specifically visible and searchable, or if you want them in both or none, or one and versus the other. All right, so that is both the member portal view and the website view. Again, if you need help embedding that into your website, don't hesitate to reach out. We can assist you with that. So let's jump over back to the slides, and we are going to then go through a few best practices. So one that I mentioned, do not allow employee accounts or groups to appear in a directory if you are creating organization directories, otherwise it appears multiple times. It's up to you if you're okay with that or not, but just something to be aware of. Also, attach the directory form to the membership application so it gets updated. You want your directories to be as up to date as possible. Yes, they can update the information or make adjustments in the portal, but you not always going to happen. Let's be honest, the only time people actually update that stuff, that type of information, is during renewal season. So make sure that it's attached so they can do that. Then you also want to allow members to edit what information is visible. There might be a few items that are mandatory. However, things like phone numbers, email addresses, and mailing address, you might not want to for security purposes. I know some people don't want them to appear at all, which is why you do have the options for the opt-out to appear or not appear in the settings. So that is something that you can adjust at any time if you wish to. Then finally is toggling display in random order. So that's something I also really like, especially if you are doing it on the public website for certified members, or even just to promote your members to being a part of your association to help them get jobs. Because you don't want people just to land on everybody that has the first letter starts with an A and going and then missing out on people that have a V or a W as their last name. So always things to consider. All right, time for questions. Does anybody have any questions? And if not, that is okay. If you have questions at any time, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We do have quite a few resources available for you. So we do have our instructional videos like this one in our YouTube channel. We have knowledge base. If there is a specific question that you'd like to ask, or if you just want to run a strategy by us, don't hesitate to put a support ticket in. It's right on your dashboard. And then if you have premium support, so Zoom calls or chat, you can always schedule those. If you want to know more about premium support, don't hesitate to reach out. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you, and we look forward to seeing you next time.